up around North Bay.
Recording is on.
Excuse me. Pretty amazing they can do all that stuff, really, when you think about it.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening.
Yeah, apologies for my lateness. Hopefully you saw my message in the chat.
Greetings, folks. This is an eagerly awaited little plane for me. Ever since the ZOAC drift.
Oops, that's me.
I was going to say, what the heck is that?
No, I just trying to navigate to YouTube.
I thought we had a new member from overseas. All right, was that recording from the recent convention? All right, so we're 5 minutes past the scheduled start time, so might as well begin. This is our 9 that we're getting for the evening by the looks of it. So, yeah, so we're just doing a quick scan of who's here. Hello, 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 hello to all of you. So, all right. Well, I think we've got really just the one presentation that's on for tonight. So Ken was definitely not available for hosting. So that's why I'm here to take over for the duties tonight. And not a whole lot of housekeeping or anything really to talk about other than I don't know if anyone had a chance to watch any of the GQRP convention talks this past weekend, but I managed to see a few of them. Italian style, I guess. So, but yeah, all the usual figures in that, you know, that those circles were around. Whatchamacallit, from India, Farhan had an interesting talk as well. So, you know, if you have a chance to catch any of those on the replays, which will be coming up later in, I guess, late fall when they'll make them publicly available, you might want to watch some of them. So get some little tips and tricks and what have you. I think there was probably about, I don't know, how many talks altogether, at least a dozen, maybe 15, something like that. Not quite as many as the QSO today, but definitely quality over quantity, I think. So something to check out. Anyway, so Pete did mention in one of his emails that there was going to be a segment, I think a member profile. I don't know if anyone here has any idea of what he was talking about, doing a, like, sort of, you know, I guess a whatever. Oh, okay. All right. So you have something lined up.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And,
no, very good.
And whenever you want.
Yeah. Okay. Great. No. Okay. I didn't realize that. Thank you, Michael. So is this an autobiography?
I guess so.
Or yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
That's what Frank did. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I suppose. So I thought you might have sold the rights to your life story already to
I did that as well.
Yeah.
I'll charge you later.
All right. So unless anyone has any other business to attend to, we shall jump right into it. Greetings to the couple that have joined us in the last few minutes. So I guess we'll get going perhaps, Dave, with your talk on wind effects on antenna structures. I did manage to have a look at your, what is it? You put your video up, I think either you just circulated.
I'm doing a talk on that.
I was hoping for the physics.
No, I'm talking about what I noticed on my mast, and I just made a little video about what was happening and what I think is going on, and that's it.
Equations. I want
No.
equations.
No, I'm not going into any kind of physics and
Where's your chalkboard?
and all that kind of stuff. No.
All right.
So yeah, I could more than happy to show that video. It's like a 3-minute long video, and it's just showing you. It's more entertainment more than anything.
All right.
Well, I got to make it work because I got to share
over,
the video here. Let me see if I can get this to work. So you guys tell me if this is working. So there, I'm sharing it.
It's coming through just fine.
On November 7th, the bridge suddenly went into a twisting motion. The wind speed was a steady 42 miles per hour. This was enough to keep the bridge oscillating in one of its natural modes of vibration with a period of 5 seconds.
Auto muted everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's short and sweet. I just noticed I was starting to get some oscillation at the top. Nothing major, but the interesting thing was below the mount point, it was kind of seesawing, and that's what I was kind of concerned about, because that part, that could be put into some kind of resonance, and that's what scared the piss out of me. So that I attached a mount point here to fix that, so the moment arm is shorter, and for it to go into oscillation, it's got to be a much higher frequency, right? And so I did that just to stop that oscillation below the mount point. There's still sway, but I think that's, I'm going to get that. I'm going to monitor it, and eventually, if needed, I'll put a steel tube inside the mast to strengthen it. But then what's going to happen is where the antenna mounts to it, that part is going to finally, like it's a zero sum game, right? It's like wherever you get, it's going to fail somewhere, right? So you're stopping it from failing here, right? So now the only place going to fail is here, right?
Hmm. Did you put a stiffener in?
Nope,
No.
not yet. I'm just going to monitor it and see what the sway looks like. Because the sway, it's a little bit of sway, but it's not as if it's swaying really, you know. It's not as if it's a drastic sway. And plus, like a lot of that sway probably came from the fact that it could oscillate below. I think with it more rigid, you're gonna get less of a sway. But because you got the seesaw effect, I think you had much more of a sway, right?
Absolutely. What's the material?
It's aluminum. It's all push up, the same mass you've got.
Right. Okay.
Those
The
push up
military mass stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I haven't had any of those sections ever break, and I've left it up for a long time. I mean, the ones I put up for field day back in June is still up there, and I have yet to see any kind of oscillation. But mine is not really tight. Actually, I just have it bungeed to the wall.
But you don't have a wind load. You don't have a wind load at the top. If you had a wind load at the top where the wind can blow, right? The wind can blow, and you've got like a surface area. You got a wind load where it can bend the mass. With my R4, R5 at the top, it's a presenting surface area to the wind, and therefore it's got a load. That's called wind loading, right?
Right. Yeah, I've got a J pole at the top, but it's just a little bit of copper tubing, so it's not much.
It's nothing.
Yeah, it's probably the width of the actual mast itself. So
yeah, I think.
What's the height at the peak of yours?
I think it's about 25 feet. The R4, I think it's about 4 square feet of wind load it presents, which is pretty big. So like the camera's not big enough, but it's a pretty big surface area. I think it's about 4 square feet.
Oh, I don't think that. I went through some some calculations when I put up my tower, and there's a couple of papers out there that talk about how to do this stuff. And my tower is 30 feet high, and at the top, I've got a mast coming up out of the top of the tower. So I assumed that the mast was going to bend. If it did, at the top of the tower, and my antennas are various different heights above, and you can calculate the force. There's a formula for calculating the force that a particular cross-sectional area, and it's based on the square of the wind velocity plus some kind of fudge factor, and basically you calculate the force, and then you look at and you calculate the moments, like the force times the distance. You assume it's going to bend at the like in your case at the top of your mast, and then you look at what I did. I looked at the cross-sectional area of the mast, which I was able to calculate, assumed the PSI for the strength of the mast, and figured out from that my antennas were good for, my tower is good for about 75 miles an hour, which I haven't had yet, but nevertheless I sort of watch it. Pearson, apparently the highest wind gust is around 75 miles an hour when you look at the recording from the airport. That information is out there. So far so good. It's been up 20 years, no problem.
Actually, what was the wind like at the time you took the film?
It's I don't know. It maybe, I don't know, 20 kilometers an hour.
So reasonably breezy.
Yeah, no, there wasn't anything serious. Like the calculations I did for my wind load at the mast, it's about 2 pounds at 20 miles an hour. So there's the force right at the mount point of the antenna. It's about 2 pounds at 20 miles an hour and 21 pounds at 70 miles an hour. The load at the mount point against the wall, it's about 23 pounds at 20 miles an hour and 278 pounds at 70 miles an hour. And my anchor to the wall is good. They say 500 pounds pull out, 100 pounds shear. So I think I'm more in danger of the mast actual buckling if anything's going to happen, because I think we talked about that last week, is that that aluminum, it'll probably buckle and bend. It won't snap. It'll buckle and bend, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to be okay. I've only got like two sections of mass above the mount point. So it's, it's not a lot that's exposed that's going to be having that bending moment, right? It's fairly short. The moment arm is fairly short. Yeah, and Michael, with my tower, I had when I was in Caledon, the tower I had on top of my tower, I had a steel mast.
Mm-hmm.
It was a steel mast, big steel mast, huge. I still have it here, but it wasn't long enough. And there's no way R5. I had a Yagi, a TH3 as well too, mounted to it, but it was right at the mount point. So right where the mast goes into the tower, it was sitting there. So we'd have to shear right at that point. So the steel mast I had, there was no way that was going to go. I was more concerned with the tower buckling.
They say if you go through the right place to put a Yagi is right at the top of the tower for that very reason. The higher up it is, the more force on the more bending moment at the top of the tower, and that's why you keep it low. I've got my mast I think is 2 inches in diameter. It's aluminum and it's thick walled aluminum, so whatever the standard is, so it's okay because the mini quad's at 9 feet above the top of the tower at the very top, and I've got a pair of ham sticks underneath it somewhere, but I figured all that out and should be fine, and so far it has been. Yeah.
And I also guided the tower as well too.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had about 4 sections of tower exposed, and I put guys, and I had these massive, huge stones. I didn't anchor it into the ground, and for the first 2-3 months, every time there was a windstorm, because we always had windstorms coming through, because I had like a wind tunnel through my backyard, and I'd go over there and I'd grab the guy ropes. They were Dacron ropes, and I'd grab the guy ropes and I'd pull it, and I'd feel the force on it, and it was maybe 2 pounds of force.
Oh wow, tower's
Maybe
pretty good.
5
Yeah.
pounds of force. So I didn't need it. That was just overkill.
My tower is lagged into the chimney with anchors, the kind of expanding anchors where you basically drill a hole and screw it in, and then you tighten up the bolt, and it pulls the bracket from behind and anchors it in tight. And I got 3 levels of that stuff. And my tower's 30 feet up, 30-foot tower. So.
Yeah, it's this type of anchor here. It's called a sleeve anchor, and it's just basically that you tighten it.
Exactly, that's exactly what I've got. That's exactly what I got.
And it grabs on. Yeah.
They work pretty well. They seem to anyway, because my tower hasn't moved. It's been up 20 years, and the top section of the tower is almost 10 feet above the roof. So it seems. Yeah,
I got this. This is rated for thousands of pounds of force. No, but I got those, and I didn't need it because the brick is too narrow. It wouldn't go right into the brick, right? It wouldn't grab into the brick.
You put it into the mortar or into the brick?
No, I put it into the brick. Oh, you don't put it into the mortar. It pull the mortar right out. You got to put it into the brick, because then the brick has got the mortar around it, and the brick has to crumble, or you got to grab that brick and pull it out of the mortar, right? And that's not going to come out, right?
Yeah.
That's what, when I was mounting it, the guy told me, he said, make sure you don't put it into the mortar, because the mortar could just come right out.
So what's holding the brick on the chimney?
Well, I guess that's a really good question. It's must be lagged into the side of the house somehow. Well, it's brick all the way. Like I've got a brick. The chimney's on the corner of the house, and there's brick down the side, about 8 feet down the side, and probably about 8 feet across, 4 or 5 feet across the back of the house. So it's a pretty solid wall. Hasn't come down. No problems.
No, I was just wondering, because they, depending on how old it is, sometimes it's just metal tabs holding it to the frame.
Oh, that's probably what they've done. House was built in 75. That's probably what they've done, but it's been fine. Like, it's been up since 1992, no problems.
Yeah, no, it's I have a 30-foot tower, were I to put it up 15 feet would be above the apex of the house, or 15, well, 10 or 15 feet. And I'm a little concerned about putting anything on top of it because I'm not sure what I'm hooking into.
Mm-hmm. Good
Frame,
point.
you know, the frame of the house, you have to get it into the joists and all that sort of thing, make sure you're tied in.
Yeah.
Work out the wind load and the moment at the anchor point, and you'll find it's not that much.
No, I agree. I don't think it would be too much.
Yeah,
I just like to.
if you're putting like a wind load of like 4 feet at the top of the tower, and you work out the moment at 75 miles an hour, it's going to be like 300 pounds. So it's the weight of two of us, and if
Yeah.
you know the weight of two of us, that anchor can hold two of us. It's fine.
There's a couple of papers out there on that I use to determine. There's a pretty good one by a guy named Travanti that tells you how to do these kind of calculations. If you're interested, I can email it out. People are interested.
That would be quite interesting. I would like to see those.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll email it.
Doing this stuff from first principles is not in my memory bank anymore.
Drew, you're a pilot, right?
No, I'm a chemical engineer. I would never
Oh,
fly.
I thought aren't you the one that flies?
No, that's Howard.
Oh, Howard. Okay.
Howard.
Howard.
flies.
Okay, no, because it's basically Bernoulli's equation of lift, except you just change coefficient of lift to coefficient of drag.
Yeah.
If I can figure it out, I'm going to do a
There's lots
chat
of
thing
easy
here.
ways to do it, but if there's already an equation set up for towers, I'm good with that.
There's nothing set up for towers.
Oh, it's just a column.
Yeah.
It's just the force on the column.
Yeah.
The drag because of the circular cross section is actually considerably more than it would be on a wing.
No, it's 1/2 rho V, 1/2 rho V squared A, right? And so 1/2 rho, they've just taken that and they've given that to you as a number and say, here it is, multiplied by V squared and multiplied by your area. That's it.
Yep.
Can I jump in for a sec? I'm driving, so I can't do the polite thing and raise my hand and stuff. All right, so there's two things when it comes to wind loading. I think, first of all, start with a question, Dave. The oscillation that you saw, was that in the direction of the wind or perpendicular to it?
No, it's direction of the wind.
Okay, so there's two effects. First of all, you've got a top-heavy, you've got a weight on top of your tower. So when there's a change in wind force, it pushes it, and then you've got the basic mass on a spring equation, and you've got an oscillation there. That's one effect. But the second thing is, if you have a wide cross-section on your tower, you get this thing called vortex shedding. Basically, as the wind goes over one side, it creates a vortex, and then that pulls the tower into it. And then you get a vortex on the other side, and it pulls it the other way. And that causes an oscillation. And that can be destructive. And there's a particular frequency associated with that, based on the cross-section of the tower and all that. That's the thing to worry about. Then you got to dampen it or make sure that you've got the clamps in such a right place that the resonance, it doesn't develop into a resonance.
That's why I anchored that part of the mast to the wall, because it wasn't an oscillation because of wind vortices. Yeah, I wasn't getting an oscillation because of that. I was getting an oscillation due to the seesaw effect. Like the mast sways and the portion of the mast below the mount point is going in the opposite direction. So you're getting that seesaw effect. So I dampened that down. I shortened that moment arm so it can't go into that vibration, into that mode. So yes, that's why I strengthened that part of the mast, and I'm not too worried about the sway at the top of the mast.
Right. It's the exact same principle as end-fed antennas. If you feed the antenna in the center, you've got low impedance. And same way, if you anchored your mast in the middle, it would be the lowest force required. If you try to anchor your mast at the bottom, at the end, you need the highest amount of force. That's like high impedance, right? And then if it's in the middle, it's like an off-center fed antenna. It's somewhere in between. Is that making sense? Or?
In a way, yes. That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, it's the mechanical equivalent of a thing. The difference is that an antenna, you want to feed it, you want to have oscillations in an antenna, and with a mast, you don't want to have oscillations. So,
I posted the paper on the chat. I presume other people can see that.
Yep, it's there.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
Okay, good.
Okay. Dave, do you have a picture of your R5? Have you actually put it up yet? So you're muted.
Yeah, it's up. Didn't you see the post? I posted where I was able to contact Italy and Venezuela and.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have a picture of it up.
Right there.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, you're saying that's a cross section of 4 feet?
Yep.
4 square feet? Yeah.
I can't remember. I got to go look at the spec. Don't quote me on it. I think it's around 4 feet. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
It's something like that. That's what the manual says.
Right. So the top of the mast, you're saying is about 25 feet, right?
Yeah.
And then the antenna above that.
Yep.
Okay.
And it started to go into a resonance at 20
No,
kilometers an hour?
no, it did not.
Okay.
No, it did not.
Okay.
Let me just stop sharing my screen here. Did I stop sharing it?
Yes.
No, it's still shared.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there. Okay. So no, my mast did not go into resonance. It's just I noticed a slight oscillation, and I thought an ounce of prevention. Let me just make sure it won't go into oscillation. It won't go into resonance. No, that's the whole point of the video. It says an ounce of prevention.
Well,
Dave,
Yeah.
can you do the world a favor and put an accelerometer on top and measure the frequency?
Sure, I even thought about doing that. I even thought about putting in those load cells. I thought, ooh, I could get scientific here and put a load cell and measure the force.
Yeah,
So-
well, do two things. Put a wind sensor, a wind speed sensor, and then an accelerometer, and see if your natural frequency changes with wind speed. Or not your natural, your oscillation frequency, the amplitude, how it changes with wind speed. That would be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, if I have nothing better to do on a Saturday night, sure, I'll go up there and I'll put some sensors.
Do it on a
Can't you just
Sunday
put your
morning.
scope on it?
Yeah, I'll put my scope and I'll measure the digital signal coming out. Did you see the post from Peter about why would someone want to get a digital signal coming out of a scope?
Well, now you know, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So this is my my answer to an ounce of prevention. So I don't know anyone who's been to Hamvention, but this is for the real hams that went to Hara. But I think a hitch on my car that next trip to Dayton is going to be my ounce of prevention. A nice little crank up here. So
Yeah, Dave, why not go big and put one of those?
yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think didn't they eventually, like, someone won that? Because wasn't it in a raffle?
I can't recall.
I think it was in a raffle. I reckon someone actually won it.
Was it actually? I don't know. I mean, it says what is this? I will go to KE4V. Nice. Anyway, yeah.
Boy, you'd need an airport clearance for that thing.
Yeah. They always had it there as well. I don't know if it made it over to Xenia, but yeah, it was always a fixture in the one of the halls at Hera. There you go. Anyway, good old Luso.
Speaking of Hera, is anyone thinking of going down next year? To not Hera, but Hamvention.
Who is?
I would, except I don't need anything.
Well,
I can't
will
vote
if you
anymore.
go.
I'm going to go to every 4 days in May if they have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm going too. It'd be good. It'd be good to see you there, Bob.
Yeah, I haven't seen you guys in a couple of years.
Yeah. We
There you
usually, if we go down, I think, when does it start? Thursday? The Thursday night, we usually go.
Yeah, I go down Wednesday night and it starts Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, we usually, I think Thursday night, Eric, we go out for dinner, right? We go out to the dinner
well,
before the vendor night.
Yeah, I mean Thursday is the whole day, right, for FDIM. So
Yeah, and then Thursday night, I think we go out, we have dinner, me, you, Ron, not Ron, what's his name?
Ron and Al?
Al, sorry, I hope Al's not on the call. Sorry, Al.
Yeah.
and Al's there, and Brand.
All right. Well, I just put up a quick poll. I see Jitsi has a poll feature, a live poll thing, so everybody can answer on the side there. Anyway, also one other thing that I wanted to mention about you were talking about your RF emissions, I guess electromagnetic emissions, and there was a whole hour session on that at the GQRP convention. It was EMF exposure assessments. They were talking about it from a RSGB point of view, but I think every national Amateur Radio Association has calculators and formulas and that on their respective websites to do the calculations. But anyway, there was quite a in-depth discussion of that. So another thing you might want to look at when the time comes to see how much you're frying your neighbors and your neighborhood squirrels and all of that. So,
Eric, was there an admission fee for that one? The GQRP?
You just had to be a member of GQRP. So in other words, a subscription to Sprat, so $20 for the year. And they had the deal. If you signed up, you'd get membership until the end of 2022. They operate on a calendar year membership. So for $20, you got admission and, I guess five issues of Sprat. So
that would be available still on the web. If you join up, you can still go and look at the presentations that were on last week.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I don't know how it works in a post basis, but I would think if you became a member now, they would grant you access to that because, like I said, for the next 3 months, it's I guess member only access. So
yeah,
but yeah, like I said,
they were tremendous presentations. Dave here at EAC,
was
telling us about it on Monday. He said it was absolutely tremendous.
Yeah. No, I ran into him there and we chatted for a bit. They had a bit of a, social forum kind of thing available, but not too much of that. It was really just keynote after keynote. Alan Wolke did a interesting, actually one of the, his presentation style was a little bit dry, but the author and maintainer and the everythinger of EasyNeck, right? He did his almost like a little retirement speech, talking about why he's making the software free in January as he nears, I don't know, he's like maybe 75 to 80 or something like that. He says it's time. So he's going to release that to the public. No more subscriptions or anything. You get the full-blown pro version, I guess, of EasyNeck starting in January. So anyway, it was interesting just hearing his story, and he walked through a few simple exercises with the software. So if you've never worked with it before, it was actually quite interesting to listen to his take on it right from the horse's mouth. So yeah, no, absolutely worthwhile presentations, all really. The only thing that kind of wasn't great about it was that it was on their time, so it started at 5 a.m. So that was a little rough. I missed. I couldn't keep my eyes open for some of the presentations. So, but anyway, all right. So there you go. So Dave, anything else, or was that pretty much it?
Eric, where was the presentations posted?
Well, for the convention that just passed, they won't be publicly available until the end of the year. So,
okay.
Yeah, basically there's an exclusive access, kind of like the QRP.
No, I joined the club. I joined the club.
Oh yeah. Well, good question. I'll see if I can find a link, and then I think you just have to enter your email address that you were registered with them, and you should have access.
Yeah, because I just went to their website, and there's no mention about that. There's internet conference, and it says sign up page. I don't see anything where it says you could download content. There's a GQRP convention, and it's got a program and just for joining, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a way of getting into it. Honestly, I haven't, but there was an email that came out 6 days ago, and it does have links, but I guess they're basically private links. So
Yeah, but I never got that email.
yeah, I think it was only for people that were registered. So if you weren't registered, you never got it. It was like part of the end of conference survey and all that. So
I did. It says hereby. I did, man.
you registered for the conference?
Yes, I registered, and I had to go and join with PayPal.
Well, search Steve Hartley. See if you got an email from Steve Hartley, Hartley. So, but like I said, I'm guessing they're private links. Let me click on them and see if there's anything even necessary. Yeah, no, it just opens. Yeah, it's an unlisted video, so that's it. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I could just post them to the group here, right? If anybody's interested.
No, there's nothing. I got nothing in my Gmail account.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything here other than sharing, gibberish YouTube links. So is everybody cool with that? Just posting them in the here or in the groups.io, maybe here, so it's not permanent, so nobody gets their noise bent out of joint or whatever. I can do that, but yeah, they're all here. So I'll put it in the chat. That way, at least it's just temporary, and anyone who wants to grab them can watch them, and that way it's not like somebody's going to say, "Hey, you shouldn't take that down on your group's posting." So anyway, okay. So that is that. But yeah, like I said, again, just worthwhile stuff. A lot of thought-provoking content in there as usual. So tons of stuff that I wrote down and made notes about, and whatever. So more things to the list. Okay, so Michael, are you ready to rock and roll with your chat?
I am. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm originally from New Zealand and came to Canada in 1954. My dad was a New Zealander and my mother was English, and they met during the war. And my dad was torpedoed in the Atlantic going across from the Panama Canal to England in 1941, I think it was, and got on a boat and sailed away and was picked up by a ship going the other way into New York City, and eventually ended up back in England. Anyway, so I left New Zealand in the year I turned 7 in 1954. We lived in Montreal, various places, and I ended up going to McGill for electrical engineering degree in power systems. I graduated in 1969, got a master's at U of T in 1983. We moved to Toronto in 1969. I have 2 daughters, and for that matter, 2 brothers. I worked for Ontario Hydro through my entire working career for 31 years, from starting with Ontario Hydro originally, and then the successor company, Hydro One, and from 69 to 2000. And in the year 2000, there were financial constraints on Hydro One, which is a regulated company, and they gave us a buyout, so I took it. And I retired in 2000. When I first started working, I was working in the power system protection area, designing protective relays for power lines, protection schemes for power lines. And then later on, I got into power system planning and actually started doing power system simulations on a Univac 1108. And they're the equivalent of LT Spice, but for power systems. And we used to, how you did it, you simulated the entire Northeastern North America power system, which has several thousand generators. and you were using punch cards, and you had a program that ran, but the deck of cards was like 2 feet long, one generator per card, so you didn't want to drop those card decks, so you had to be very careful carrying them across the floor. Then later on, I got into power system planning for high voltage power systems, the Ontario 500 kV power system and the 230,000 volt power systems, looking at developing plans for expansion and things like that. And did some intercompany negotiations when Ontario Hydro split, which is interesting. I ended up being a supervising engineer at Hydro. At one point, I was the president of the Professional Engineering Society at Hydro and was involved in salary and benefit negotiations and certification as a labor union of the society. And that was interesting. It was against Hydro's wishes, but we did it anyway. I've always been interested in radio and electronics, and ever since I was a kid with a train set, probably age 10 or 11, and you had those little light towers that you could light up, a little light bulb, and you could connect it to the transformer with the train and make the light come on and off with pieces of mechanical and stuff. So I did that. My parents at one point bought me a book called The Boy's Second Book of Electronics, and this was in 1961 or 1962. And I built a crystal radio from it, and that was pretty good. I could pick up the CBL in Montreal, equivalent to CBC here, all the way to Fort Wayne, Indiana at night. Kind of interesting. And I built a single transistor amplifier from that. In 1962 or 63, my dad bought me a Lafayette KT-135 regenerative receiver kit. He brought it from New York City. So that was my introduction to shortwave listening, and I was able to confirm 31 countries. I had the country QSL cards from 31 countries, and I just use a long wire antenna. And these stations in the 60s had contests, and you were able to enter the contest. So at one point I entered a contest for Radio Australia, which at least I could hear. Never was able to hear New Zealand, but my question was answered on the air, which I thought was pretty good. And those were the days when there were concerns. If you were a shortwave listener and you sent a QSL card to Radio Moscow or Radio Romania or Cuba or whatever it happened to be, the concern was that the RCMP would come after you because they would think that you were spying or whatever. And so Radio Moscow would send these magazines to you, so the concern was, well, they're reading your mail and God knows what. And I actually heard Terry Hirsch, VA3CQG, had a friend. He's a member of our club. He had a friend that was an American friend. This guy found out that the FBI was in fact looking at him because he was doing this kind of stuff, which is sort of interesting. Anyway, it never happened to me. So I'd always wanted to be a ham, but didn't have any money, and went to university and didn't have the time to do the studying. And at one point I went to the McGill ham radio station, sort of looked around and gawked, and that's about as far as I got. Always drooled over the Heathkit catalogs, could never afford anything. But I did build a small audio amplifier, a 3-tube audio amplifier, and I built an FM stereo receiver in 1968 roughly, and I also built a stereo amplifier in 1970. I still have those downstairs. Don't know if they work, but I still got them. Got my QSL, my call in January 92, and I have the basic, the 12-word CW and the advanced. My first receiver was a Yaesu FT102, one of the hybrid tube things, and I eventually got an external VFO so it could work split. And then in 2000, I bought the FT1000MP, which I have now, and it's got all the INRAD filters in it and in both IF stages. I borrowed an FT2000 to compare recently and decided that they're pretty much the same as the MP, really just somewhat digital implementation. Digital filter implementation. So for what I do, which is DXing, the FT1000 is fine. I have an FL2100Z linear, but I've never used it to speak of. My passion is HF DXing. I like CW a lot, but now I've got into FT8 at least until the solar cycle improves. I have, as I said earlier, a tower, and on the tower I have a mini quad 5-band antenna. It's a small 3-element Yagi. It's up 39 feet. I've got an R7 on the roof, a hamstick pair on the tower for 30 meters, a DXB for 4080, 116. I've got a feeble attempt at a 40-meter dipole hanging from a tree in the front to the tree in the back, but the squirrels have attacked the Dacron, and so it's down right now. I'm going to get some wire clothesline, I think, to put it up. So I have 302 DXCC countries. The latest was Vietnam, all on 100 watts, no linear. I've got DXCC on 10, 12, 17, 15, and 30. I have 95 countries confirmed on 40, 25 on 80, and 1 on 160. That was Daniel V3NI, who lives 2 blocks away. I enjoy the homebrew building, and I've learned a lot from the homebrew group over the few years I've been part of it. I've done a bunch of things at the buildathon, the SS4 signal source, the PARC signal generator. Actually, I didn't build that. I was sold, got that from Bob Hudson. The component tester, still working on the LBS QRP transceiver. I'm almost done, but I never bothered to finish it. Built a digital interface as a KH6TY digital interface, built that. I've looked a lot about Al Walk's WA2 AEW stuff and ZL2CM stuff on the web. I find them very good. Built the QCX transceiver for 40 meters. I have a 200 megahertz scope, same as Dave's. I have the PARC SNA. I have a mini, well, the club has a bunch of us in the club bought a mini VNA, so it's here. I have the nano VNA and the LC meter 2 and the Fox Delta antenna analyzer as well. I put them all in a Nanook soft interior case. And I have a few projects on the go. I've got a 5-band automatic filter that I started about 10 years ago. Got as far as winding the coils. Bought a VK5JST antenna analyzer from Australia. That's been half built. Getting the parts for an antenna switch so I can switch the antennas for the MP. And I have another KT135 that somebody gave me. And I bought a copy of that second book of electronics just to have, not cheap at $100. I've used LT Spice quite a bit. I find the homebrew group is really good for learning stuff. My other pastime is woodworking. I've done a number of various projects in woodworking, in the middle of one now for the church, Margot's Church. I use a 3D SketchUp program, a 3D modeling program called SketchUp. And finally, I've been a long-time member of the Mississauga Club. Was involved in organizing the V3MIS Club Station and held most of the officers and positions, including the president. I was repeater manager at one time and also field day manager. So that's me, for whatever that's worth. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Michael. Yeah.
Probably too long, but anyway.
No, not at all. I think that's great. That's exactly what Peter had in mind when he was disable reaction sounds. Never mind. Yeah, somebody. Oh, there you go. A thumbs up. Got it. Cool. Yeah, that's exactly what Peter had in mind when he thought up this segment for that. So yeah, no, a lot of interesting things. You said your formal training's electrical, right? That's
yeah. I'm an electrical engineer from McGill in 1969. I specialized in power systems, and at Hydro I did, as I say, power system analysis. So a few years later, I did the master's degree in power systems, which was easy because it was all the stuff I was doing at work. Most of it was easy, put it that way. Yeah, very good. I know I have some things that I want to ask you regarding that, but does anyone else have any comments or questions for Michael?
That was a very interesting history.
Well, thanks.
I enjoyed the part about the Lafayette radio coming from New York City, because that probably would have been a rare thing to get in Canada at the time.
Well, my dad used to travel on business, and he used to go to conferences in New York City. And there was an area in New York City, I gather, where there are all kinds of radio stores, and he went there and bought this Lafayette kit for me, and they figured it would take me weeks to put it together, and I had it done in a matter of days. But I learned, how to do, well, what shortwave listening was all about, and the thing worked first off, so I was very pleased with that. Yeah, so that's where my dad got it from in New York.
Did your
And,
parents ever take you to the doctor and to see if you had the condition known as the knack?
Knack?
The knack. Have you not seen that? Was it Dilbert, right?
Oh, the Dilbert cartoon. No, they didn't. No.
What's wrong with my child?
Yeah. Interesting story with Lafayette kit. When I had a Heathkit GR91 shortwave receiver. That's what I bought, the second one, and I had this stuff, and I gave it to a friend who was a year or so younger than me, and this guy John Turgoose, and he had a brother Phil, and so I lost track of John. So I ran into Phil at one of the Hamex things, and Phil told me that his brother was a ham. I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I wondered. Phil didn't know whether John had all this stuff or not still. So a few years later, I was having trouble with AVG antivirus. So I looked on the web and found a service place or website anyway for AVG. So I called them up and I said, I'm having this trouble with my antivirus. Can you help me? And I identified myself. And so at the end of the conversation, the guy said, well, no, I can't help you. We're a corporate place, but whatever. So I said, okay. And he says, by the way, are you the Michael Brickle from St. Hilaire? And this was this guy, John Turgoose, that I had given the stuff to. He didn't have it anymore. And there's a guy, Clyde VE3VOC, lives in Etobicoke, and he and a couple of us went to his place to put up an antenna, a tower or something. And we're in his shack, and on his shack wall, on a shelf, he had a KT-135. So I drooled over it, and Clyde brought it to me a couple of days later and gave it to me. He picked it up at a flea market, or a garage sale rather, and he gave it to me. So I got it here, replaced the filters, works sort of, but anyway, I babbled on enough.
Is that the John Turgoose from Kingston?
It is actually. Do you know him?
Oh yes.
VE3NFK. I know him as well.
There's
well, that's John.
Yeah.
Say hi to him.
He is he's famous around here. Ran Altair Computers.
Yep. Altair.ca.
He was the Macintosh and Apple guy for a long time.
No kidding. Is he still active in the club?
I don't think terribly active, but the club's a hard thing to gauge activity with. He lives up in Battersea, just north of the city.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, if you happen to think of it, if you're talking to him, say hello to him for me.
I will.
Okay. I see him every 2 years, him and his wife at LobsterCon. They're regulars down in Maine. So.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, say hello to him for me.
Yeah. It's been a couple of years since I've seen him, I
It
guess.
is.
But anyway, John and Greta, I think, his wife. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yep.
Small world.
Indeed it is. What caught my ear when you were... Oh, sorry, Frank, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Very good presentation, Michael. And the thing that hit a resonance with me was the reference to the UNIVAC 1108. At that time, I worked for UNIVAC, and I wasn't on the hydro site, but I was quite familiar with the equipment and the era as well. So it was kind of interesting and reminiscent.
Yeah,
Thanks for the talk.
Yeah, we thank you. You're welcome. We used to do our computer studies on that, like I said, and before they had the UNIVAC, before they did simulations with computers, what they had was basically a physical model in the basement of one of the buildings at Hydro with motors representing generators and customer loads and inductors and capacitors and the like to represent the transmission lines. It was a physical model of the power system, very small relative to the real system, but you can do some equivalencies and make it look like the real system. That was before they got the UNIVAC. Anyway.
Yeah, prior to the 1108, they had two UNIVAC 2 systems in their head office. And the first one was standard, and the second one we converted to floating point. So that was quite an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I was going to say, what caught my ear in your presentation was you talking about your, I believe it was an FT 102.
Yeah, I got an
Yeah.
FT 102 about it. I got the guy that taught me was I can't think of his name now, but a bunch of us went to TL Kennedy High School in Mississauga here, and the guy that taught the course recommended or knew someone who had an FT 102 and was a used radio, tube finals, and that's how I learned to start with. And then I got it there, and I got the external VFO at Hammocks because I wanted to be able to work split, and you can't do it with just the basic FT 102, and unless you use the RIT, which really doesn't work all that well. So the external VFO was sort of a push button thing, and then the MP's got 2 receivers, so that's even better. Yeah.
Okay. You went to TL Kennedy?
That's the TL Kennedy High School. The guy who taught the course taught it from there. Yeah.
Right. But that wasn't where you. No, that you didn't attend there. No.
No. I went to a high school in Saint Hilaire in the South Shore of Montreal called Mountain View High School.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. That's just TL Kennedy's in the area where I actually went to school. So.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no reason I'm asking is because do you still have your 102?
No, I sold it.
Are you familiar with the operation of it though, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think so.
Because the path I'm leading you down here is my FT 101. I am somewhat mystified by its working, so maybe I could arrange a, I don't know if you'd be able and or willing, but help me out with what the heck is plate loading and.
Oh sure, yeah.
Mysterious.
What little I know, sure, yeah.
All right. Well,
basically, you set the finals. There's a tank circuit, and you set the finals, and you minimize the grid current. I think I forget now. A long time ago, but
okay.
You do all that stuff, and then it works.
All right. Well, I'll have a go at it. But if I run into any issues, I might be
picking
one-on-one. So
sure, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the manual for it, Eric?
I do. I believe I got everything from a silent key. So yes, I'm pretty sure I haven't gone over everything, but I've got a whole bunch of things with it, a monitor, scope, and a whole bunch of accessories. I've got everything except the, whatever it was, kilowatt linear amp, I guess.
Yeah.
So, which is
I
fine.
have a 101B, Eric, if you need some help.
Okay. Yeah. It's a 101E, I believe, that I've got. So.
I have a 520 Kenwood, and you mentioned plate loading. First time I started it up, I very carefully went through the manual step by step by step, knowing you make a wrong move at one of these things and you're done. It is a daunting process to do. It's not trivial. Until you get used to it, it's very scary.
Yeah, that's kind of my feelings on it. It's again, I believe this is one of the hybrid type, some solid state, some tube, but not the kind of thing that I want to be fishing around with a damp hand inside the box when it's turned on. So.
Speaking of scary stuff, the 2100Z, the linear I've got here, I used it exactly once. We used to have a 40-meter net here, and I was splattering all over the place. My neighbor said, the guy down the street said, but he's only a kilometer away, so maybe it wasn't so bad. But I've never used it since, and it's been here probably been 15 years since it's been turned on. So I want to make sure that I don't blow stuff when I plug it in. So what I'm going to do is borrow a Variac and try to do some conditioning and see if I can get it up to the right voltage without any problems. We'll see.
Does it run up on 220?
I rewired it for 220. Actually, it's got a tap transformer, so I I have a 220 volt supply in the radio room here, and I rewired the linear for 220, and I've got the 220 plug on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow a friend has Bob Hudson actually has a 120 volt Variac, but he's also got a 2-to-1 transformer. So what I'm going to do is connect those together and do it that way eventually. One of those things never got around to. You guys still there?
Yeah, that would be a scary thing.
I've got a a chicken stick that we Daniel and I built a couple of chicken sticks. So I got one of those. So, but I would never think about going inside and playing. I don't think, not with 3 kilovolts or whatever it is. No thanks.
You're familiar with 230 kilovolts, so what's 3?
Yeah, the safety distance for a 500 kV line is 23 feet. You got to be at least 23 feet from the conductor.
For 500 kilovolts?
I think it's 500. Yeah, I think so. Or you know what? Yeah, the spacing between phases on a 500 kV line is 54 feet between the center conductor and the ones outside. And
to prevent arcing?
Just otherwise to keep the conductors apart. Yeah,
and that's probably with a good margin of
safety. There's some safety factors in there. Yeah, the voltage to ground is the voltage between the conductor and the tower is 500 kV divided by the square root of 3, whatever that is. But it's that's why the insulators are so long.
It's okay if you only touch one wire, though, right?
Well, that's right. As a matter of fact, Hydro does helicopter maintenance, and basically what they do is they fly a helicopter over the line and replace the guys working on the line, ground them, connect themselves to the conductor, and they're fine. They get off the helicopter and away they go, and they're fine, perfectly safe as long as you don't touch any ground.
Wow. Although I guess you're sweating a bit the first time you do that.
I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
What about Michael? What happens if I've often thought about this? Because they always have parallel conductors. What happens if you accidentally touch a second conductor? They're both the same voltage, but they could be subtle differences, right?
You mean the 500 kV lines in Ontario? They've got 3 phases. Each phase has 4 conductors.
No, I meant, sorry, you were saying they took the helicopter to come in to go and maintain a high voltage line, right?
Yeah, they only touch one phase at once.
Yeah, so what would happen if you touched another line? Because you know how they have several lines running together? They may have 3 or 4 in a cluster.
Hydro uses four conductor spacing. 4 conductors, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're about this far apart. And they're grouped in groups of 4, but they're all at the same voltage. So you can they're all in parallel. Those 4 are in parallel. It's like one conductor.
You wouldn't have any distance where they're you get ohmic losses and they're a little bit.
No, don't think so. No.
So it's safe to touch any of those bundle of 4s, right?
That's right. And you see them replacing the spacers. There's all kinds of videos out there with helicopter crews replacing the spacers, and basically they get on the conductor with the spacer, and they basically clamp the spacer to the four conductors and take the old one away. But that's fine as long as it's the one conductor, because it's all the same voltage. And besides, you're touching the one, so it doesn't matter. You're quite safe.
Got to have some kahunas to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're a couple hundred feet up in the air as well, and yeah.
It's a young man's game.
Very much so.
It should be an old man's game.
No, we're too smart to do that.
All right. Okay, I guess in the absence of any other questions, thank you very much, Michael. By the way, Peter is just checking in with me, asking how the meeting is going. So I told him we just had an excellent bio section. So thank you again. That was, I think that hit the spot. So
good.
A lot of people don't know, what everybody's background is, and it's always very interesting to find out. So no matter what, everybody's got something interesting in their background. So Peter is peppering me with more questions. Obviously, he's bored with whatever else he is doing other than being here, which kind of makes sense. So
you got to lay it on thick, man. Make him feel jealous. Say, oh, great. Best meeting ever. Best meeting ever.
Best meeting ever. Sorry, I forgot to hit the record button, Peter.
You're going to have to find something that he volunteered for as a result of not being at the meeting, and then fake it up, have some fun with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he can host field day at his house next year. For you, instead of going up to your place, everybody's going to his house.
That's what maybe we should arrange that right now. So.
That's what I was thinking. You see, and then announce it to him because he was not here.
I'll bring the burgers. Who else? Who's got the buns?
Or you know what's going to hurt him if you say he's volunteered to give away all of his beer.
Well,
You'll be upset.
I would think he would volunteer to at least make a keg.
Yeah, he's got the kegerator. So.
He does.
Yeah. Dual tap.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. So
he's hardcore into this homebrew draft stuff. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to get me to go from bottles to kegs. So that's the current.
Do they still use the old soft drink kegs?
But half ponies or something like that.
Back many moons ago, when soft drinks were provided in an aluminum canister.
Yep.
And they used to pressurize those. And of course, they're very good for draft beer. So people used to scarf those things and make them in the draft beer kegs. Do they still do that, or is that passé now?
Yeah, well, I remember my first job at Harvey's was lugging those things around and putting them in place with all the hoses and everything. But I mean, kegerators with the CO2 cylinders to
you just feed a couple of pounds to it.
Yeah. So no, it's still very much a thing. You can buy the brand new ones from time to time. Danby still makes them at Costco. They're you can see them.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I didn't realize it'd be that common. I mean, I have a bunch of old Grolsch bottles that I know are rare, and but you can still get the rubber seals for them.
Oh, okay. We're talking like individual bottles, or
yeah, Grolsch bottles.
Yeah.
I have stubbies. I have stubbies too that I would put up on the market, but I have stubbies and quarts.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, we have fun labeling our home brews, but everybody that says once you do kegs, you'll never go back. So,
I once made. I used to make wine, and at one point I made a sparkling wine, and for that you start with you make a red wine with or rosé wine or whatever with a little bit less sugar than you normally put in, and then it ferments, and then once it stopped fermenting you add more sugar.
Yep.
And and the yeast and whatnot, and then you put it in the champagne bottles, and then you got 24 little bombs sitting around in your basement. Yeah.
Did you lose any?
No, we didn't actually, and of course you put your proper champagne tops on, you wear them down and stuff, and eventually you get to the point where you think there's more or less okay. You put them upside down and you turn them every so often to get the sediment into the cap on the bottom, and then what you do is you put those into your freezer and get them really cold, not frozen of course, and then once they're really cold you then turn the right side up, pull the cork out or pull the cap off and put a new cap on, and the sediment supposedly is in the cap. It sort of works, but it took a long time before it was like 3 or 4 years before the yeast taste went away. But after that, it was pretty good. Only did it once.
I only lost one bottle, and it was actually a fault in the glass as compared to a pressure issue. It severed perfectly. It ended up looking like a drinking glass. Severed right at the invert, just snapped right across it, and it was because I think someone bumped into it.
Wow.
But the rest of them always survive. But yeah, no, it's a great art, but Peter's taking it farther than I have because he's got it. He's grinding his own stuff.
No,
Eric, Peter mentioned that you have a CNC.
Not operational at the moment. Unfortunately, I've got some issues with the servos. They're binding on something, and I haven't solved that yet. So, I mean, it's a kit. I didn't design this myself, but it's a CNC Labs thing from out in Waterloo, KW area.
That's the long mill.
Well, this is the precursor to that, the original mill that they had, not the long, but the short mill. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
I saw it demonstrated at the University of Toronto. I almost bought one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the long mill's a nice.
This on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. Like I said, I can't even remember the name of the small one. They talk about as the long mill these days. But
It is. It was
anyway.
from a group called Sciency, as I recall.
Yeah, Sciency, or I think it's a play on CNC, right? But SC, whatever. Anyway, that's spelled similarly. So
Yeah, the new versions are quite pricey, but that first one,
it was about 400 or so.
To buying it when I saw it.
Yeah.
So Peter had mentioned that you had one because he's just bought a 3018
from the Chinese version, I guess.
Yeah,
of the CNC or whatever.
There's 3 of them in town now.
Okay.
Peter and Dave both have the 3018s, but
that's the same Smart.
The mill that you bought. Yes, the SenSmart. Yes, the one you have, you can make signs with. I mean, it's got a real router on it. That thing is a beast.
Yeah, it's a Makita router. You can put a Husky on it as well, but I've even got a backup for it. But yeah, it's a real deal, pretty hefty router with, regular bits. So no, this thing can go through quite a bit of material. They built it strong. But like I said, it's just got this issue that I haven't been able to get down. I haven't really drilled into it, no pun intended, but yeah. Looking forward to getting that going. Plus my 3D printer that is still in a sealed box. So I don't know, it could just be filled with lead weights for all I know. So
what version of that did you buy?
It's the Ender 3.
Yep, I have one.
So yeah. I mean,
they're quite wonderful.
It's kind of like the Honda Accord.
They're really not quite nice.
Yeah. I figured it was a good starter, not too expensive and lots of support because, it's such a common model, right?
It's a good deal.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of projects to go. So
what model is that again, Eric? You got?
It's the Ender 3. For some reason that is not the complete name, but
ENDR?
Yeah, Ender 3. Maybe it is just called the Ender 3. Creality. Ender 3.
Reality, yeah.
Yeah. So
there is a pro version now, but I have the original Ender 3 as well.
Yeah. So
it's a whole learning experience on its own. Without the CNC part, it is getting everything right is really quite a challenge.
3D printing is another hobby, just like ham radio.
It really is.
Dwayne
so much to it.
He does a lot of stuff and brings it to our club meetings, and he kind of got me hooked in it. And you can see I've got something in the back here that I've got to finish repairing, but I have been able to get a few boxes out of it. I bought it to build enclosures for kids, but as you say, it takes a lot of love and attention.
It does. I've been trying to do that, but I'm using Tinkercad, and I'm finding that it's just every time I make a move and I think I've got something solved, the model goes off on me. So it's close, though.
Close but no cigar.
So I'll print the box and then I'll drill holes in it because ultimately I give up on Tinkercad making holes.
That's okay. That works.
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid 3D.
It's additive and subtractive all at the same time.
You probably get better holes that way.
Yes, as long as the layers don't delaminate on me.
Yeah, okay. And the drill isn't too fast that it'll burn.
Yes. That lovely sugar smell in the house. My wife loves it.
Yeah. Set off the alarm.
Yes.
Now, that seems to be the best use of it for our hobby is enclosures, right? Or one of the best uses for it. But do you have any experience, Bob, about, I've always wondered what having a 3D printer is for replacing broken plastic bits on things. You know what I mean? Like you have something that, has a crucial plastic part that breaks. Have you done much of that kind of thing?
I've not had that much confidence in the strength of those materials. Although you see on Thingiverse, they have guys that have been doing it. I've never tried anything that requires anything very strong and sturdy. Let me see what I have. Little things like, hold on, let me pull this out. I mean, little things like this is like a holder for things. So I've done stuff like that, but nothing that's going to take anything more than a couple of pounds. This is a pen holder that I have for all my pens, and it holds other things, but nothing that substantial.
The PET G is a fairly robust plastic as compared to PLA.
Ah, okay. I've been using PLA.
Yeah, I got into PET G, and once I got the parameters set on it, it's pretty tough. I have to give it credit. It's impressive.
Oh, okay. I'll remember that.
My brother in Toronto has a 3D printer that he built from a kit. I don't know the model number or anything, but he has a milling machine, like a metal lathe, and he stripped a gear on the lathe once and made a replacement gear for his lathe with 3D printer, and it works just fine. And he's made other stuff. He's made a couple of things for me. I have a tent trailer, and he made like the cap that goes over the regulator outside the thing broke, and he made another one out of black plastic for me. And he's made a couple of things for my table saw as well. So it's pretty good, very impressive.
Probably it's using ABS.
Hey,
He's probably printing in ABS.
I don't know. I don't know what he uses, but it's pretty good stuff anyway, whatever it is.
Yep.
Think about
ABS
3D
printing is very good.
Think about 3D printing. It takes hours to do stuff, which is okay, but it just takes a long time.
There are
terrifying
guys
to walk away from it.
There are guys too that they print something called a fin can, which is the bottom of a rocket that fits on a rocket tube, and it's got the fins sticking out. And it's a one piece.
Yep.
And they print that with a 3D printer, and they've flown it, I think, up to Mach 2.
Really?
Yeah, and it starts melting. It gets soft. I think once you get up around Mach 2, it starts to melt because of the friction, the air friction, right?
There's a lot of the Rocketeers that are using 3D printers for fins and the like. It's very impressive stuff they do.
Yeah, it's you can get very, very strong stuff now.
Yep.
My brother in New Zealand has a friend who made a model of a Saturn V rocket from 3D stuff. And the thing is, a scale model. It's probably 4, 5, 6 feet high or something, but he made everything with 3D printer.
Must have taken a long time to print.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the part that I have trouble with, is walking away from it when it's got an almost 1 day print. You have to leave it alone, and then with all the rumors about these things catching fire, it's always in your mind.
Hey, what I've always thought about this. What happens if it loses power? Will it start back up where it left off, or is it toast?
That's
You're
toast.
on the look.
You're at the well.
That's not true. The ender will remember where it was.
Ah.
Yeah, I think it depends on the model. Yeah.
It does. I have a Pressa clone that was some years old, and it's mindless. If you kill the power, it doesn't remember anything. But the ender seems to have a way to pause the print, and I suspect it retains a memory of the program and where it was in it. Because if you want to change plastic, if you want to change colors or something, it'll do that.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It's not bad. I mean, it can do more than I can do.
I guess you want to make sure you've got a UPS on your 3D printer, right?
I do that, yes, I have it, but it won't survive very long. I mean, it'll take a bump. It'll take a bump out, but that's about it, because the current draw is pretty impressive.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't think it was for a 3D printer. Yeah, I guess the heating element. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. Once you get things going, the current draw it's running. Part of it's a 12 volts, and some of it's a 5. But the 12 volt draw, as you say, you have 2 heaters, the bed and the hot end, and it's upwards of 100 and 170, 150 C, and the bed can be as high as 80. If you're using PET G, it's almost 200 C for the end. It's drawing a lot of current.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, well, that's the one thing I've found in just researching a lot of the different materials is you really want to have a specific plastic for your purpose, right? Some are UV, some are heat resistant, and some just so stinky you don't want to use them in your house, I understand. So.
I got into printing TPU, which is a flexible strand. And I was doing there was a local physician in Picton was producing larynxes. They were going to teach everybody how to do cut downs on larynxes. when they're up in the north. So he wanted some demonstration models on how to do this. So he sent me the model, and I got this TPU strand to print. And PETG is one thing. This stuff was entirely different. But once you got it working, it actually created a flexible model, which was really quite interesting.
TPU.
Yeah. It was also fluorescent green, which I guess just added to the whole thing.
Right. And then there's these ones that have, what is it, wood elements to them, or even metal?
Yep. It's a
My
wood
brother-
solution in the plastic, but it chews the hell out of your nozzle.
Yeah.
My brother's done some of that with. He has a model train he's working on. He's got a couple of engines that they're G gauge or something,
Ooh.
and he's used that material with the wood fibers in it to make logs that look real for his train
Neat.
set.
That's very neat use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people turn out. There's also a carbon fiber version of the strands, but apparently it's also death on nozzles. Goes through nozzles pretty quick.
Hey, Drew, I was just looking up the power consumption of an Ender 3. They said it's 125 watts.
No, that's
Wow.
not too bad. That's not too bad, but it'll certainly burn out. It'll suck down a UPS pretty quick.
Yeah, what's the typical, like a PC these days? What's it, 300 watts, 400 watts, 600
Well,
watts?
Well,
The
full tilt.
power supply that I have on my Prusa clone is an 800 watt power supply from a computer.
So, you should, I think most, like, I can't remember UPS sizing, but I think most of sizing you can get, they could get a desktop to run for like 10 or 15 minutes
Yep.
with a moderate size. So if that's 600 and this is 100, you should be able to power it from a UPS, a basic UPS, for at least an hour.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're almost
Yeah.
better off just giving it to a car battery and feeding the 5 volts off an adapter.
Yeah. No, it just, if it's 100 watts, 100, I'm just rounding, 100 watts, and a PC's, let's say 600 watts,
That's
it's
not too
strong. Yeah, and you get 15 minutes from a UPS at 600 watts. 100 watts, you should get an hour, around an hour. So you could get a brownout, you could get a power outage for about an hour, and you'll be okay, right?
Yep.
Theoretically.
And if it's any significant out, then you just plug your generator in, right?
Yeah.
Well, for those of us who have generators, yes.
Yes.
I have an entire kilowatt to use. I have an old Yamaha that does kind of a kilowatt.
Thankfully, I've got a 22 kilowatt generator on the property, so that does a lot.
Good God.
Yeah, but it's a farm, so.
What do you got, a milking machine or something?
I'll be milking the chickens, so it takes a lot of juice. They're tough old hens.
22 kilowatts, got to be diesel.
No, it's a propane. So.
Speaking of power, I have a question. One of my granddaughters is interested in F1 racing cars, and her sister found on YouTube a sort of a build-it-yourself F1 racing car out of using popsicle sticks, and it had bottle caps. Quite ingenious, actually. It had bottle caps for wheels, and it had a 3.7 volt DC motor, and the motor was powered by a LiPo battery. So I built this thing and got the appropriate charger for the battery and all that stuff, and the USB charger. So you plug it into your computer. Battery charges up just fine. Thank you very much. But when I connected it to the car, it would, and it started out at 4.2 volts. It would run the car for a couple of seconds continuously, or the wheels would run. It wouldn't drive the car because I guess it was too light or something. But anyway, the motor ran for a while and then stopped. And then I found that when I turned the switch on, the motor would sort of jerk and stop. And then you turn the switch on again, jerk and stop. And this went on for a while. And eventually the voltage I checked, it stopped doing this at all. And the voltage on the battery dropped. And I checked the voltage on the battery was 2.2 volts, which is way below the 3 volts that a LiPo battery is supposed to go to. And I can't figure out So I ended up buying it. I wondered if I'd shorted the batteries. So I bought another battery, another charger, did the same thing. Again, exactly the same thing happened. At that point, I gave up. But I was just curious to know, is a 1200 milliamp hour battery, little square thing that sat underneath the car, but there's obviously something wrong. And I don't know what it is. The guy who built it on YouTube showed it working. So I'm just baffled. Anybody got any ideas as to why that would be?
Yeah, you need a speed controller.
No, this thing didn't have it, but it didn't have a speed controller. It was just
these motors with these lipos, right? You get these motors, right? This one is 3-phase. So ignore what I'm saying. Like what you have is a DC motor like this here. You got like a DC motor, right?
That's right. Slightly smaller than that, but yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Number one, make sure you got capacitors across it, right?
Never had capacitors
for noise, like, and then the other thing is that these lipos, okay, once you go below, they're rated on basically like milliamp hours.
Yeah.
You know, like the milliamp hours, right?
Yeah, 1200 milliamp hours. Yeah.
Right. So like you got to look at the draw of the motor, and if that motor you got is drawing too much current, it'll deplete that battery within seconds.
I wondered if that was going on. I bought the battery from Sept, or the motor from Sept, and I got the battery from Elwood Electronics downtown. But I wondered if that was what the problem was, that the motor is just drawing way too much current.
Like this motor is I can't read the number of watts, but if I ran this motor on that's an 800 milliamp hour battery, I'd probably maybe get a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Run and it burn out the battery. You need a speed controller, not to power the motor, to protect the battery. Because if you drain this battery below that 3.2 volts,
yep,
the battery's toast. You got to throw it away. It's no good.
They have protection circuits in them, don't they? Usually.
Nope. Yes, they do. But but you can get the voltage below the 3 volts, and then the protection circuit won't let it recharge.
Some don't, and the way you get around that, Michael, if you've got, I had a battery, this battery pack here. I flew my heli. This guy here, I flew my heli into a tree, and it sat in a tree for a week, and this battery was connected to it. When I finally got it out of the tree, this battery, 0 voltage, completely bone dry dead, and I was able to recover it, and the battery works perfectly fine now. What you got to do is sometimes this works, but it's dangerous. Repeat, it's dangerous. Okay, what you do, you take it and you get another battery the same voltage and you just zap it. It's like a defibrillator. You're just zapping it, right? And you don't leave it on there long because it'll destroy your new battery pack. You're just trying to zap it just to get some get it going again, right? And I kept doing that, nursing it, and finally it came up to 3.2 volts. I put in a charger and it charged.
My brother used to do that with NiCad. Well, he still does with NiCad batteries. They develop little whiskers across them and some of the cells, and you can burn the whiskers off by doing something similar to that.
Yeah, so I've had batteries where they've gone dead and they're gone. You just got to throw them out. But that battery, I was able to recover it. So I was kind of lucky.
Sounds like the way you recover a lead acid, by pulsing it, right?
Yeah.
High voltage pulses.
Yeah. And I think that's what Michael's saying, because I think they develop like a coating, and I think the batteries are the same way. I don't know the whole chemistry. Isn't Drew's the chemical engineer? He should know this stuff.
Well, you would think so, but I do environmental work, so I mean, I'm not allowed to expend power.
That's like me, man. Everybody comes and asks me questions about physics. It's like, man, I haven't done that in like 30 years.
No, you're really, well, actually, the battery chemistry is really interesting, and there is so much to this now. I think it's an independent study. I think you really have to become an expert in the various battery chemistries just for lithium. There is so much to it. I've heard about burning whiskers off. What you've just described, I would do outside with a long pole. Only because if you make that one mistake, you don't have enough time to get out of the house.
Yeah, those lipos, they just go.
They do. I'm kind of interested in. They've only recently begun to discuss this with the boating people, but there's been an awful lot of silly people putting lipos or into, I guess, the iron phosphate ones in their sailboats. A lot of them, and only recently, I guess, have the insurance companies discovered this, and they've discovered that they don't really care to have this floating bomb out there with their insurance policy. They've been cutting these guys off left and right. So after they sank a god-awful amount of money into the batteries, they found out their insurance is canceled.
I've been told that these lithium iron phosphate ones are actually not as reactive. The iron phosphate.
They aren't. Yeah. They aren't as dangerous. I had this conversation once regarding generating power at home, solar panels and all that stuff, and people were packing their basements full of lead acid batteries. And I mentioned to, an insurance agent at one point, I said, does this concern you at all? Why, no, not at all. Which I found incredibly stupid, because all you need is one wrench across the terminals and you've got a pretty good fire going. Mm-hmm. And the insurance companies seem to be oblivious to this stuff, but I actually bought the envelopes to put the lipos in.
Right.
The supposedly fireproof envelopes and stuff, just in case.
Yeah. Lithium battery bags.
Oh yeah,
I just got to looking at those.
Eric, remember that
explosion one, right?
For sure.
Is that just venting?
Yeah, Eric, can you remember this?
Yeah, that was his.
That was his heli. He crashed it, and the lithium broke, and it burst into flames.
Was that a drone or a heli? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was this guy's heli.
A lot of time.
Yeah, he was flying a heli for the kids, and he was pulling up a antenna for the kids. Remember, Eric?
Yeah, for sure.
It went into an oscillation. The thing he was pulling up went. It was like a pendulum, and eventually swang into the blades, and the helicopter came crashing down and punctured the lipo, and it burst into flames.
We were trying to marry two hobbies here, RC and ham radio.
So if you were going to, with these little lipo batteries, what I was going to do was just take it to the recycle center, just like you take any other battery. Is that okay, or should I be telling them something about it, or what?
You should probably tell them what it is.
Yeah, okay. Just so they know.
This seems like an appropriate time to ask this question, but I have this old swollen, I guess it's a lithium ion, or would it be a lithium phosphate? I don't know, maybe pouch kind of batteries, right? But it's all swollen, like ready to burst. And I don't want to just like throw it out or give it to the Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
What if we throw it into a fire?
No, put a nail in it, man.
Actually,
just take a nail, stand right next to it, and you're going to
What you do is you take about a 1 pound weight and you put a spike on it. And you drop the 1 pound weight with the spike through the nail, but you got to be some distance away, but do record it.
No, you got to be right next to it.
Dave, when we're in Algonquin in 2 weeks, I'm going to be bringing this to the tent that we're sharing, okay?
You're not staying in my tent.
I have a few of those highly swollen batteries as well, and embarrassingly enough, part of what I do has to do with hazardous materials disposal. And they bill you for getting rid of these things.
So you recommend thermal energy or kinetic energy for?
If you're going to do it at home, and this is how.
Oops.
Small incendiary, and that's what this thing is.
Sorry, we lost you for a second there, Drew.
If this thing goes off, it's going to be a very interesting show. So I would do it in your front yard with a long pole and a nail and just see if it'll go. But I wouldn't. I would be cautious to even transport it if it's that swollen.
Well, if you're in Algonquin Park, just throw it into the fireplace, right?
Yeah, into the fire pit.
I don't think it'll do anything.
I mean, we've been known to throw propane cylinders into the fire, so can't be that much different.
I don't think you'll get anything out of the lithium for putting it to fire.
Oh no? Yeah.
I don't think so. No, I don't think it'll go off that way. No, if you happen to short it out by driving a nail through it, then absolutely it'll go off.
Huh.
You just want to be at some distance when you do that.
Yeah.
So you get
Or
yourself
maybe
a
I'll
6
save
foot,
it for field day.
well, a 6 foot chunk of wood with a spike on the end of it.
Yeah.
You're far enough away.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, I got this recorded too, so thank you.
I was going to say, I'm glad you're gathering evidence against us.
Your Honor, clearly at 9:10 p.m. on September the 15th, I was counseled.
Absolutely. We got the there's a non-rechargeable version of a lithium. It's a lithium sulfur cell, and they're used to power radios, and they're a one use only. But we have to pay to dispose of anything that's lithium.
That's
So,
like those Energizer lithium AA's that you can buy, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. All I know is that we don't have to pay for any other, for alkalines or anything like that. The companies come and take them away, and they do very well with them. But if you tell them there's a lithium or a mercury, you're paying to get rid of them.
Here's the interesting thing about batteries. If you order a device and it has a lithium battery in it, no problem. It gets shipped to you, no problem. But if you go and you order a lithium battery and you get that shipped, there's a hazmat fee you pay.
Yes, there is.
But you could get a device with a lithium battery in it and it's okay. It gets shipped okay.
Oh, but it's shipped at at less than optimum charge, so it's safer that way, Dave.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get the how that's done. You know,
I don't think shipping it in a reduced charge state represents a considerable safety improvement.
Yeah, no, but yeah, because it's got a lithium battery in it, and it's being shipped in the same container or wherever that a lithium battery is being shipped in.
Yep, I don't understand it either.
Yeah, it's.
I don't order them. I don't order them by mail anymore because they used to show up from China very quickly, which means they came by air. I just stopped doing that.
Yeah, well, I don't. It's their airplane.
Yeah, but it's over our airspace.
Yeah, but you know what bothers me is that I stopped buying batteries from China. I used to buy all my stuff from Hobby King, and I stopped buying it from Hobby King because now they've switched over. They don't use Hong Kong Post anymore. They use a carrier. They use like a FedEx, and FedEx just nails you to the wall. Yes. They just nail you to the wall. By the way, Michael, I've used cross-border pickups.
Yes,
I use it several times. Man, that is fantastic.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It is absolutely fantastic, flawless. I even had, it was kind of funny. I ordered something a couple weeks ago, and I got an email from the person I bought it, the company I bought it, and they said, we suspect this is fraudulent, and we just want to let you know we're not shipping this, and we're refunding your money. And I said, why do you think it's fraudulent? Well, because your phone number and the address we're shipping it to does not match. Because I was shipping it to like New York, but I was giving them a 416 area code.
So what did you say? Did they agree to ship it after all? Once you talked
I said fine, refund my money. I'll take my business elsewhere. And they said no, it's okay. We just wanted to confirm it's real. We're going to ship it for you.
I haven't run into that yet, but I use cross-border all the time.
No, but this wasn't cross-border. It was the company I bought it from.
Oh, okay.
Because they were shipping it to cross-border, an address in New York.
Yeah.
But the phone number I put was a Canadian phone number, and they're going, hang on a second, this guy's a terrorist.
Yeah, I guess they might wonder.
I sometimes give them the vendor the phone number, local phone number for the Niagara Falls cross-border address, so that if they have to call the destination, they're calling 716 area code or whatever. So.
And it comes once it hits cross-border. Like if I get it mailed to me by Canada Post, it's within like 2 days. A day or 2 days I get it. It's just, it's incredible. It's
I pick
really-
up directly from the depot. I've been using them for years now, and only once did they lose a parcel, and they actually reimbursed in full the contents of the parcel. So
yeah.
The one thing you got to be careful with cross-border pickup is to make sure you put your box number on, because if you don't, then that ends up costing you extra because they have to do some special shipping arrangements or something. I ran into that once by mistake.
Yeah, I'm like that song. You better check it twice. You know, what's that Santa Claus song? I check the shipping address. I check it like 3 times. Make sure I get the unit number, the address, the postal code. I just make sure, because I don't want it to go next door. You know?
Yeah.
the only thing with cross borders, it starts to add up if there's companies that ship piecemeal, right? You know, like if you do an Amazon order and it comes from 3 different warehouses in the States, then you're paying triple the import costs.
If you know it's coming, there is some kind of service where if you get, I think it's if you get more than 3 packages, you can do.
Right.
It's called consolidation, and it reduces the cost a bit, but not a lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean, I ordered a bunch of books one time, and I think they shipped 1 book at a time, like 10 times or something.
That's expensive.
Amazon you can't control, but
I got nailed with that too. Where I got 2, they sent 2 packages, and for me to combine it together, it was like maybe I was saving like $3.
That's all you save, yeah.
Yeah, from shipping it each, you know, I was only saving like $3.
And it used to be you could it was 2, now it's 3 at least.
Something like that. It's $2 or $3 you save.
Yeah. Cherry,
is this company called Cross Border Pickups?
It's called Cross Border Pickups with an S.ca.
Oh, okay. And like how does the customs
Well, how it works is you register with Cross Border Pickups, and they give you a box number in Niagara Falls, New York. And then what you do is, if you're getting stuff shipped from the States and it's going to cost you $100 shipping or whatever it is, enormous amount of shipping, you send it to them, and you pay the U.S. shipping charge from wherever it's coming to Niagara Falls. Then what they do is they email you and they say, we have this package for you. Tell us the value in U.S. dollars and what it is. And you do that online. And then you pay the $9 or whatever it is shipping fee to get it from there to here, plus any GST that's involved. You pay that online. You do it by Visa or whatever. And then once you've done that, then they ship it to their office in Kamado Drive in Mississauga, or as Dave says, like you can, for a couple bucks extra, you can have it mailed to you instead of being, and that's how it works. But the duty, there's no brokerage fees. The cross border looks after that. You don't pay a brokerage fee. You just pay whatever the GST and the fee to cross border for it,
and any applicable duties.
And duties if there are.
Applicable duties, yeah.
That's right. If there are any.
Yeah,
I haven't actually run into that with that stuff.
Yeah, minimal on the kind of stuff we're interested in.
Yeah.
Well, since we're not allowed into the States, that's a big deal.
It's a really good service.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've never heard of that. That's a really interesting thing.
Crossborderpickups.ca.
Yeah,
and you can declare any value,
of course,
that you want on the form.
You got your finger on the record button, don't you?
Except, Eric, if they've got on the package, they've got the invoice.
Of course.
Yeah. It's $10 coming back. The only other place that I've got stuff shipped where you don't get nailed, there's 2 places, and one is DX Engineering. You go there, you pay the taxes, you pay the Canadian taxes, you pay a nominal fee to ship, and there's they ship it via whoever, FedEx, whatever. There's no brokerage fees, no handling fees, nothing. You just pay them, done. And the other thing is DigiKey, but DigiKey is coming from Montreal, right?
Well, DX Engineering, I'd like to know how they do that.
Yeah, it works. I bought my mounts for my mast from
Yep.
DX Engineering. They came, I paid just the shipping fee, taxes, and that's it. No
Yep.
other fee. And it was reasonable.
You
I
bought
want
the
one.
mass from DX Engineering?
No, I bought the mounts for my masts that go
Oh.
against the house.
Oh,
It's a wall mount mast for holding them. I got a heavy duty
okay.
mast mount. It's like a 3-inch mast mount.
Yeah. I suppose they just have a special arrangement with the courier. So, you know. Yeah.
I once bought this. Oh, I bought this recently. It's a 8-pinned in plug. $2.19 from some company in the U.S. $32 USPS shipping to Canada.
Yes.
Wow.
So I used
Oh,
I
yeah.
used cross border, and it cost me like $8 shipping or something. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, the cost difference between the Canadian and American versions are rude.
Hmm.
Even on Amazon, if you check the differences between Amazon.com and Amazon.ca, you'll see a quadrupling in price.
Yeah.
So I will look at the crossborders.ca. That's a wonderful hint, that one.
Crossborder pickups.ca.
Or, sorry, pickups, yeah.
Yeah, don't forget pickups.
Absolutely. Thumbs up. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're getting to almost the 2-hour mark. So unless there's any other business that anybody would like to bring up, I think we're probably about ready to call it a night. Sorry, Dave, that you won't be eating at Harvey's again, but I remember one time when it was my first real job and I accidentally flipped a burger onto the floor, and I sort of looked at the manager and he looked at me and said, "Is anyone looking?" He just picked it up, put it back on the grill. So anyway,
Well,
enjoy your Harvey's burger.
Oh my.
Mhm.
Well, my son just finished working at A&W for about 7 months, and he did suggest that despite what it looks like, it's probably best not to go there a lot.
Oh my God.
What you don't know won't kill you most of the time. So.
The human body is remarkably capable of dealing with such insults, no problems. We're geared to it, right? Oh, look at this. This is a great website. I'm going to lose myself in this cross borders thing now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. And as always, a pleasure. I will eagerly report back to you the results of bringing a nail and a swollen lipo on a camping trip in a couple weeks to you. And there may be 1 or 2 less attendees at the meeting, but or at least with some less body parts.
I was going to say, well, but the good news is you'll get a lot better at CW because you'll only have 1 finger to operate the key with.
Straight key only, eh? Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
All right. Anyway, all right. Well, good night, gentlemen. And
Good night, thanks.
everybody. Hopefully, everybody got
Good
the
night.
links that they wanted to on the chat there, because they'll disappear shortly. Please
Yes,
try not
thank
to
you.
maybe not spread them around too much, because they're not really meant to be posted anywhere. So
Oh, thank you for that. That's very good.
yeah. Okay.
Good night, all.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.
Is on.